So, picking up from where we left off, the grate we put on before has now had time to set up, and I've already done a little cleanup on it. Generally, cleanup when you're working with superglue is simply just to give it good sanding, and that usually will clean it up. Now, another method for attaching photo-etch parts involves the use of something like a nail or a spare toothpick, and then in a more controlled manner applying the superglue. Now I'm using a slightly different one for this, mainly because I'm just trying to use it up and it's available. And in this case I'm going to apply it gently around the edge here. You don't have to get it completely around the frame, you just need to get enough that will ensure the part will stick. And in case of this grate, I don't see it taking that much. Okay. Yep. And then, much as we did before, it's going to line up and attach the part. Then just give it a good little bit of a hold pressure applied to it to make sure it's good attached, and there we go. And that part's more or less done now. Now at the end of the day, which method you choose is really going to be up to you, and also will be partially based on situation you're in, and also in some cases if you have problems with super glue actually gluing to the cap, you may be stuck using the nail method regardless if you want to do it or not. In either case, at the end of the day, the objective is to have enough glue applied such that it will stick. And so it really is up to personal preference. So I'm just going to partially attach this to the body just to set it out of the way for now. So moving on now, next part we're going to need to attach is this little housing for the headlights. Now with fine parts like this, you want to take extra care when working with them and clipping them out, because they are thin, so they are much easier to break. So let's go ahead and grab these off the sprue. So, in most cases for these parts, if the kit manufacturer is halfway decent, they'll at least try to make it so it's a little easier to get them out without damaging them. And I'm just going to be very careful in my choice of how I get at them, just because I don't want to damage this part. Okay. Now, when in tight situations like this, you want to try and use the tip of your sprue cutter so as to just get in there, and it may take more than one swipe at it, but as long as you're really careful, you should be fine. Now I was going to get this upper part, which fortunately is a little easier to get at. Excuse me. Now, okay, put that back. So, now one alternative if you want to get into scratch building would be to take some spare wire and just make your own housing, but that's a lot more advanced than we'll be getting in here. So again, You also want to try to just test fit a little, make sure you get the alignment right before you go ahead and start gluing, as that'll save you some time. So I'm going to go ahead and clean these parts up off camera and then continue after that. So I've finished cleaning up the headlight frame parts, and now I'm going to put them together. Now, with parts like these, it's going to be a little hard to hold them, so you want to find a good spot on which to grab hold of them that you can hold while you're doing the gluing. And it's just a simple matter of getting it to line up correctly. Now, if necessary, don't be afraid to add some more glue to make sure you can get a good, proper attachment. And that's another thing with these small parts, is they can be a little harder to work with. Just need a little bit more to get this last part. Now, again, when working with these small parts, you don't want to use too much force when holding stuff down, as you don't want to break it. Okay. And just about have this part set up. Sorry I'm taking so long with this. I just want to make sure this is done properly. Something which, when you're working on your own kits, you're going to have to do anyway. But it's generally better to spend the extra bit of time making sure it's done right than to rush through it and screw it up. Okay, so I think that's good to go now. Yeah, so we can set this aside for the time being and move on. So next up, we're going to do these barrels. Now, because these are multi-part pieces, it makes them a little harder to work with, as you're going to need to first get the alignment between the two halves of the barrels and then the end caps. And so we're going to do that in two steps. First being getting the barrel halves together. Now, these are done in such a way that you have an A and B part, so since we're making two of them, it makes it a little easier not to get the two mixed up. So I've already got two A and B halves, and then I'm just going to apply some cement to the edge. That's one edge. Okay, and then repeat on the other side. Now I've let the little bit of sprue on for the time being, simply because I have to do cleanup from gluing them anyway, so it's better just for now at least to leave them on. So that does it for that. I'm going to do the other one, and we'll then continue with the end caps. So I've gone ahead and cleaned up the oil drum part, so now we can go ahead and attach the cap pieces. Now what's nice is that they've gone ahead and given us a little marking bit, so we know where to attach the caps onto the main body of the drum. So I'm just going to go ahead, apply fairly liberal amount of glue and go ahead and attach them. Now, since the main part that's getting glued is not going to be seen, you can have a little bit of slop with the glue, just try to make sure that you do get sufficient on there to get a good hold. Oops. As you can see, if it doesn't, it's not going to want to hold really well. Okay, now we got our little oil drums done, so it's now just a matter of waiting and doing the second drum, and then those will be done. So the next part that we need to do in the sequence of assembly is these two side boards that attach onto the side of the main body. Now, since we're not going to be putting our tracks on until later, we're going to leave those unattached to the body while we put on all the accessories that the kit wants us to put on. Being careful to note needing to make the holes for that part to attach to. Now, I've gone ahead and already attached the fenders that go here in an effort to save time. For these holes, I'm going to, instead of using the previous method that I mentioned, and I'm instead going to go ahead and do a combination of marking them with a nail and then drilling them out with the Exacto. As for these, it's you need to at least get a little bit of starting to them. Now, for the most part, you can probably just use your fingers to get the hole started, and then just do any cleanup again with your Exacto. And you just want to make sure you keep the Exacto flush with the surface of the part, so as to not scrape the part at all. Now, since they do to some degree have the hole already pre-sized to some degree, you don't have to do too much guesswork. You just need to make sure you don't go too big. Okay, and that'll take care of that. Yeah. So, now we can move on to attaching some of the extra parts. And a couple of these parts are going to, for the most part, just be straight glue jobs, which I'm going to do off camera to save some time and keep the series a little on the shorter side. So since basically out of time now, I'm going to stop it here and go ahead and attach these, and then come back when we need to do the assembly of this little box thing. So till then.